culture of America. Some useful American terms. Americans come from everywhere. In a country as large and dynamic as the United States, nationalities and races mix. People are individuals. They don't always act or think in predictable ways as members of groups. For convenience, however, we classify Americans according to several factors. The first is race. European, white, African, black, Asian or Native American, American Indian. But even this is not a perfect classification system, since Hispanic Americans, those with a Spanish language background, can also be white, black, or even part Native American. White people. The bulk of early settlers to the United States came from the British Isles, England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. From early on, large numbers of German and Scandinavian immigrants came to America, and Irish immigration was heavy starting in the 1840s. In the last decades of the 19th century and the first decades of the 20th, great numbers of immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe, including many Jews from these countries, came to the United States, moving into communities all over the country. These people of European background came to form the white, English-speaking majority of the American population. Black Americans, African American culture. The impact of African American culture on the evolution of the U.S. can be seen in the many resources the Internet offers on black history. English-speaking settlers, especially in the southern states, brought in large number of slaves from Africa during the first 2 centuries of American history. The descendants of these slaves, as well as some immigrants from Africa, South America, and the West Indies, form the black or African American minority, traditionally considered to comprise 1 out of 9 Americans. Former terms for African Americans, which are not considered insulting but which are out of favor, are colored and Negro. After the Civil War in 1861 to 1865, which resulted in freedom for the slaves, many African Americans moved to major cities all over the United States. African Americans have suffered racial discrimination throughout American history. While race relations have improved in many areas of the United States, racial conflicts, like the 1992 Los Angeles riots, make news regularly. Despite headlines about race problems, however, it is important to remember that all over America, white, black, Asian, and Hispanic Americans live and work together in relative peace and stability. Hispanic people. The term Hispanic refers loosely to Americans descended from immigrants from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and other Latin American countries, all of which have very different heritages, but which share the Spanish language. At least 11.5% of all Americans are of Hispanic heritage, and the proportion is growing. The term Chicano refers to Mexican Americans, mainly in Texas, California, and the Southwest, areas of the United States that were once part of Mexico. In some major cities, it is common to see signs or even government documents printed in both English and Spanish. Cities such as Miami, Florida, and San Antonio, Texas, operate on nearly a completely bilingual basis, while others such as New York and Los Angeles have large, vital Spanish-speaking communities. Asians. Asians comprise a small portion of the American population, though the number is growing with steady present-day immigration. The largest groups are immigrants or descendants of immigrants from China, Japan, Korea, India, Pakistan, Vietnam, and the Philippines, formerly an American possession. While many Asians live in their own communities, like New York's immense Chinatown, people from all these groups are also mixed into the general American population. American popular literature. American popular literature is an immense field. Despite TV, Americans read more than ever. American women read more than men. Popular fiction genres are mystery, suspense, horror, romance, and historical fiction. The sweeping novel of 4 generations of Americans is a popular type of book. In the world of non-fiction, advice and how-to books are extremely popular. These books cover many health issues. At least one diet book is always on the bestseller list. Self-development how-to books of all types are popular, as well as inspirational titles. Minorities. The term minority group has different meanings depending on context. When used by the American government on official forms or for official purposes, it means all non-white, meaning non-European people, African, Hispanic, Asian, and Native Americans. In popular usage, especially when it involves problems of poverty and the inner cities, the term refers only to blacks and Hispanics. Beyond the family. The standard American middle-class family lifestyle has a solid following, but it is by no means the only active or vital lifestyle in a country as diverse as the United States. American pop culture. Many books have been written about the phenomenon of American pop culture, the shared ideas, trends, and artifacts created. Book clubs. Book clubs are popular in America. These book clubs advertise special offers such as any 5 books on this page for 1. Country and Western music. Country and Western music is yet another great tradition of American music linked to the southern parts of the country. Country music is the descendant of the music that Scots-Irish pioneers brought to the Appalachian region. Country music lyrics speak of the hopes and troubles of millions of ordinary people in the South and the heartland of America. By far the most famous country music singer, Hiram King Hank Williams, 1923 to 1953, wrote hundreds of sensitive and inspiring songs. Nashville, Tennessee, nicknamed Music City, with its Grand Ole Opry performances, is the center of the world of country western music. Gay people. Like singles, the homosexual or gay population, both male and female, cuts across all other classes and groups, and is yet itself an identifiable constituency. Gays often have their own neighborhoods, their own community and political groups, their own newspapers and television shows. The AIDS problem, which though not restricted to gays, has hit gays hard, has sparked a great deal of gay activism. Gay pride parades and demonstrations are common in major cities. While gay people of both sexes still suffer from a great deal of discrimination and prejudice, they have been successful in steadily gaining greater acceptance into American life. Independent women. Women make up more than half the American population. On average, they also live considerably longer than men. The American women's movement began to have impact in the 1840s, and by 1920, American women had the vote. Women still suffer discrimination, especially in the workplace, but have more power in the United States than in most other countries. It is becoming more common to see working women and single-parent families. Rights and opportunities for women in the United States are expanding. Many women come to the United States from countries where women are oppressed. They often do not fully realize what their rights and opportunities are. They owe it to themselves and to the men they have to deal with to clarify these rights. Women's organizations of all types exist to help women achieve their full potential in American society. Time zones. Time zones. Because of the vastness of the landmass, it spans several time zones. Each is separated by 1 hour. The Eastern Standard Time Zone is 4.5 hours behind GMT. The 4 time zones are Eastern Standard Time, Central Standard Time, Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time. Daylight Saving Time. Daylight Saving Time is also called summertime. It is a method of advancing clocks in order to artificially expand the daylight hours. Clocks are set forward 1 hour in late March or in early April, and are set back 1 hour in late September or in early October. Each time zone switches a different time. Hawaii, American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Most of the Eastern Time Zone portion of the state of Indiana and the state of Arizona do not observe daylight saving time. One of the biggest reasons for changing clocks to daylight saving time is that it saves energy. Energy use and the demand for electricity for lighting homes is directly connected to when one goes to bed and gets up. Bedtime for most Americans is late evening through the year. So when one goes to bed, he or she turns off the lights and TV. In the average home, 25% of all the electricity used is for lighting and small appliances, such as TVs, VCRs, and stereos. A good percentage of energy consumed by lighting and appliances occurs in the evening when families are home. By moving the clock ahead 1 hour, people can cut the amount of electricity they consume each day. Studies done in the 1970s by the U.S. Department of Transportation show that the entire country's electricity usage is trimmed by about 1% each day with daylight saving time. Daylight saving time makes the sun set 1 hour later and therefore reduces the period between sunset and bedtime by 1 hour. This means that less electricity would be used for lighting and appliances late in the day. If you are an American. If you're American, you believe deep down in the First Amendment, guaranteed by the government and perhaps by God. You're familiar with David Letterman, Mary Tyler Moore, Saturday Night Live, Bewitched, The Flintstones, Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Bob Newhart, Bill Cosby, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, Donald Duck, The Fonz, Archie Bunker, Star Trek, The Honeymooners, The Addams Family, The Three Stooges, and Beetle Bailey. You know how baseball, basketball, and American football are played. If you're male, you can argue intricate points about their rules. On the other hand, and unless you're under about 20, you don't care that much for soccer. You count yourself fortunate if you get 3 weeks of vacation a year. If you died tonight, you're fairly likely to believe in God. If not, you've certainly been approached by people asking whether you know that you're going to heaven. You think of McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, etc. as cheap food. You probably own a telephone and a TV. Your place is heated in the winter and has its own bathroom. You do your laundry in a machine. You don't kill your own food. You don't have a dirt floor. You eat at a table, sitting on chairs. You don't consider insects, dogs, cats, monkeys, or guinea pigs to be food. A bathroom may not have a bathtub in it, but it certainly has a toilet. Between black and white, there are no other races. Someone with one black and one white parent looks black to you. You think most problems could be solved if only people would put aside their prejudices and work together. You take a strong court system for granted, even if you don't use it. You know that if you went into business and had problems with a customer, partner, or supplier, you could take them to court. You'd respect someone who speaks French, German, or Japanese, but you very likely don't yourself speak them well enough to communicate with a monolingual foreigner. You're a bit more ambivalent about Spanish. You think the schools should teach kids English. It's not all that necessary to learn foreign languages anyway. You can travel the continent using nothing but English and get by pretty well in the rest of the world too. You think a tax level of 30% is scandalously high. School is free through high school. At least it's an option, even if you went to private school. College isn't, unless you get a scholarship. College is, normally, and excluding graduate study, 4 years long. Everybody knows that mustard comes in jars, shaving cream comes in cans, milk comes in plastic jugs or cardboard boxes, and occasionally in bottles. The date comes second, 11/22/63, and you know what happened on that date. The decimal point is a dot, certainly not a comma. A billion is 1,000 times a million. World War II was a just war, and, granted all the suffering of course, ended all right. It was a time when the country came together and did what was right. And instead of insisting on vengeance, the US very generously rebuilt Europe instead, with the Marshall Plan. You expect marriages to be made for love, not arranged by third parties. Getting married by a judge is an option, but not a requirement. Most marriages happen in church. You have a best man and a maid or matron of honor at the wedding, a friend or a sibling. And naturally, a man gets only one wife at a time. If a man has sex with another man, he's a homosexual. Once you're introduced to someone, well, besides the president and other lofty figures, you can call them by their first name. If you're a woman, you don't go to the beach topless. A hotel room has a private bath. You'd rather a film be subtitled than dubbed, if you go to foreign films at all. You seriously expect to be able to transact business or deal with the government without paying bribes. If a politician has been cheating on his wife, you would question his ability to govern. Just about any store will take your credit card. A company can fire just about anybody it wants, unless it discriminates by doing so. You like your bacon crisp, unless it's Canadian bacon, of course. Labor Day is in the fall. Contributions to world civilization. You've probably seen Star Wars, E.T., Home Alone, Casablanca, and Snow White. If you're under 40, add Blazing Saddles, Terminator, Jaws, and 2001. Otherwise, add Gone with the Wind, A Night at the Opera, Psycho, and Citizen Kane. You know the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Elvis, Chuck Berry, Michael Jackson, Simon and Garfunkel, Linda Ronstadt. If not, you know Frank Sinatra, Al Jolson, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Tony Bennett, and Kate Smith. You count on excellent medical treatment. You know you're not going to die of cholera or other third world diseases. You expect very strong measures to be taken to save very ill babies or people in their 80s. You think dying at 65 would be a tragedy. You went over U.S. history and some European in school, not much Russian, Chinese, or Latin American. You couldn't name 10 U.S. interventions in Latin America. You expect the military to fight wars, not get involved in politics. You may not be able to name the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Your country has never been conquered by a foreign nation. You're used to a wide variety of choices for almost anything you buy. You still measure things in feet, pounds, and gallons. Space and time. If you have an appointment, you'll mutter an excuse if you're 5 minutes late and apologize profusely if it's 10 minutes. An hour late is almost inexcusable. If you're talking to someone, you get uncomfortable if they approach closer than about 2 feet. About the only things you expect to bargain for are houses, cars, and antiques. Haggling is largely a matter of finding the hidden point that's the buyer's minimum. Once you've passed college, you very rarely simply show up at someone's place. People have to invite each other over, especially if a meal is involved.